Hi, everybody. This is Stacy Kemp. I am the executive leader of the CMO program here at Deloitte, and I have the fantastic opportunity to sit and talk a little bit about commerce and retail media networks with Ryan Mayward. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what number CES would this be for you?
I'm going to say 14.
14?
Yeah.
Consecutive, or did you have any breaks?
Well, we had the COVID break.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true.
So yeah, no, beyond that break, I think it's been consecutive. Yeah. I've been to, I don't know, Vegas 20, 30 times for work.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me.
So tell me, if you look back to 1 versus 14, how would you categorize how things have changed?
Things have changed a lot. What's really exciting for me is I think some of the technologies that we've been breathlessly anticipating for years are finally starting to come to life, and make real business impact. I love the automotive industry, even though I don't work in that business. And I've been super excited about autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
I live in New York City. I don't see too many driverless Ubers moving through the city.
No.
But you come here, and you see that autonomous vehicles are a real thing, providing real business value. But outside of a consumer application, I guess if you lived in San Francisco or Austin, you might get an autonomous Uber.
Yeah.
But here I'm seeing, like giant John Deere tractors that drive themselves and other big vehicles that do heavy work in construction. And so autonomous driving is here. Underpinning that is, artificial intelligence, obviously. And that's more in line with what I do in media, marketing, advertising. And so rather than years past where everybody's talking about the dream of AI impacting marketing, I'm sitting in meetings at this conference talking about how certain percentages of creatives are going to be developed by an AI application, or the brand is going to save 50% year over year on creative development because of certain tools that they've deployed. So I guess what's different is we're seeing the technology get deployed and impact businesses, which is super exciting. We're not just sort of dreaming about stuff that might happen in the future.
What have you seen on the floor so far that you think okay, in 5 years' time, this is going to be the thing?
Yeah, well, some of the stuff I just touched on.
Yeah.
I think I'm excited to see the consumer version of autonomous everything come to life in more cities and more environments. I think that's going to be fun. And obviously, there's the TV business. We're getting a lot of announcements this week about the evolution of the TV business, but here, just walking the floor, I keep thinking we're at peak TV, we have the best TV we're ever going to have, but I get proven wrong every year.
So maybe let's pivot a little bit to Walmart Connect. And it's so interesting because retail media networks are not new anymore, but we're still talking about them a little bit like they're new, and commerce media overall still feels maybe in chapter 1 through 3 versus chapter 30 to 35. How would you talk about Connect's evolution and sort of what are you excited about happening right now for customers of Connect?
Well, it's a timely question. There's a proliferation of retail media networks right now. You're seeing them pop up in obviously grocery and consumer electronics and home goods and what have you, but adjacent industries too, hospitality, all the hotel groups and airlines and QSR chains. And I think what's exciting is that brands are testing all of these emerging retail media networks. They're partners to these companies. I think they feel some sense of obligation to test them out and learn a little bit. And I think that the impact of this is that brands are forming strong opinions, sophisticated opinions about what retail media should deliver. I think that they're looking for retailers that have a physical touch point at a national scale. They want an app that all of that retailer's customers use on a regular basis. And they want some sort of coherent way of delivering brand messages between those touch points. And then they want ways to expand that messaging outside of that retailer's environment on other publishers, social platforms, and TV environments. And so that's what they're demanding, and they're demanding that through their own experience testing these other networks. The exciting thing is we're delivering that and delivering it at scale. We're America's #1 retailer. We're #2 in e-commerce, and we're able to service that omni-channel customer in unique ways through our vast assortment and our amazing convenience in terms of grocery delivery and other things.
And Ryan, when you talk about it like that, like you're like, well, this is what they're looking for. I'm thinking, well, like Walmart has all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you maintain urgency around innovation, or not just, you could very easily sort of rest on your laurels of scale and access and frequency and still deliver an amazing value proposition. How do you push the boundaries on innovation when you're sitting in a place that has some of those built-in advantages?
Well, I think that historically brands have viewed retail media as a complementary part of the media plan, right? But when you reach a level of investment where you're a top 5 or a top 10 partner to that brand, you carry a lot of responsibility. To deliver reliably, and to deliver in ways that they're used to from the media companies that have been in that top 5 or top 10 list for many years. And so that's what keeps motivating us and driving us, is to achieve parity with the best in the business and then surpass them with capabilities. So we have been, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, in catch-up mode. I think that last year and this year, there's been a real turn in the tone of the conversations with brands. We're not talking about catch-up anymore. We're talking about innovation, and we're able to sort of set features and functionality aside a little bit and dive deep into what the brand really needs to solve from a business problem standpoint on Walmart. And so finding new ways to solve their business problems at scale is the other sort of major motivating factor to keep pushing us forward.
If you were to be able to sort of whisper in the ear of your best advertisers and say, this is the thing you really should be asking us for, what would that thing be? Like, what do you feel like might be sub-optimized as advertisers begin to not think about commerce media or retail media as an adjacency, but maybe a core element of the media strategy?
Yeah, well, let's reflect a little bit on how brands are tackling measurement in general in media. I think if you were to ask a brand, 10 years ago, how do you want to measure the impact of addressable advertising on your business? I think they would have started talking about accessing log files, right, and having common identifiers across all the customers they're reaching, and then doing their own in-house MTA. But with the deterioration of identity to a degree, with log files really now finding their ways into narrowly scoped clean rooms, brands can't do that. So what are they doing? They're investing in their media mix models. And they're enhancing them. They're making them better. They're feeding cleaner, better, more robust data into them. They're getting more nuanced insights, so not just channels, but looking at specific media providers. And they're doing it more frequently, monthly, quarterly. So what I would say is make sure that there's harmony or there's synchronization between the measurement, the sales lift that we're bringing to the table and showing you through our own unique measurement capabilities, and your own internal ROI model. If I come to you and say, we've delivered X lift in sales, I want you to see that in your own ROI model. And so let's find that common ground. Allow us to work with you to find that sort of harmony, and let us know what data you need to feed into your model.
Is the data the biggest barrier to getting that harmony, or are there other barriers that would make that harmony impossible without some kind of transformation or investment up front?
I think it's a little bit of a moving target in the sense that brands are constantly enhancing their own internal ROI models, right? So the finish line keeps moving. I don't think that there's any one thing that's missing.
Right.
One of the things that we've heard from brands that we've responded to is, between all of our ad products and different ways of consuming reporting for us, they need one clean way of consuming all of the information related to what they bought from us in the prior quarter or year. And so we've responded to that with a Media Mix API, where it's just a pipeline that shares everything that you bought from us in an organized way so that you can accurately feed in what you bought from Walmart Connect into your model. I would say that that's sort of the one feature request that's been consistent across brands. Outside of that, I think it's more of a consulting type of a relationship. We have this thing called the Walmart Ad Mix model, which think of it as like a calibration tool. It shows sales results, it shows lift, and it shows it by ad product, which is a level of granularity that the brand couldn't find in their own model. And so we show that to them as a means of helping them understand how to find a better signal in their own model from what they're getting from Walmart Connect. So it's about being transparent and sharing with one another and finding ways to speak the same language.
One of the things I'm super curious to get your perspective on is probably maybe 2020, talking to retailers versus financial institutions or hospitality. The endemic versus non-endemic advertiser would have been like 100% zero.
Yeah.
What do you think it is now, without any trade secrets? And
Sure.
I know it's obviously Walmart is a little bit of a category of one because of the breadth and depth of SKUs that you have. You have
Right.
your endemic advertisers is a lot larger than other retailers. But how do you think about that mix now? And what does that tell you about the value of this as a means to
Yeah.
get in front of customers?
Non-endemic is, I think, very important and fast growing. If you contemplate Vizio, we announced the Vizio deal in February of last year. It closed December 4th. In that time period, we couldn't really do anything, but now we're here at CES talking about that acquisition and what we're going to do together. Vizio's entire business is non-endemic,
Yep.
right? They work with those auto manufacturers and financial institutions and hospitality companies and so on. And so I think that CTV is a great entry point for non-endemic brands, but other things too, our social extensions, even our on-site media are attractive to brands. Like, we reach basically everybody in America. They're deeply engaged. We're talking to them weekly because of their grocery trips, and we know a lot about them. And any marketer would want that. But I definitely think that Vizio will be an accelerant to our non-endemic business.
Do you approach the sales process or the consultation process any differently with those advertisers? And I guess where I'm going with that is, if I think about endemic advertisers and certainly some of your largest suppliers and advertisers, it always felt like an area of opportunity to kind of mix that merchant business with the ad business.
Yeah.
How close are we to finding that kind of collaboration?
Well, with respect to suppliers, like, it's an intimate relationship, right? Like, we're deep with the merchandising team and working with suppliers. With respect to non-endemic advertisers, I think that the opportunity is to teach them something they didn't know about their core customers or who they think their customers are. They can have the 20, 30-page brief that describes, Sally, the soccer mom from a certain suburb, but we can tell you what she buys every week for groceries, what kind of clothes she buys for her kids. Like, that type of information, observed, empirical information, is extremely valuable in informing all kinds of stuff, from creative development to media planning. So I do think, like, we obviously want non-endemic brands to invest in our media products, but as a precursor to that, I think we can tell them a lot about their customers or their prospective customers that would be very valuable to them outside of a Walmart Connect context.
So I want to pivot now to maybe what you're hearing. Obviously, the beauty of CS is not just be able to see kind of what the future looks like, but also the chance to have face-to-face conversations with your best clients and future customers. What are you hearing from your meetings this week?
Yeah, some of it I've already touched on with respect to ROI. I think that brands with retail media and every retail media partner, they want to know that they put $1 in and something greater than $1 comes out the other side, and that greater than $1 is incremental. And I think that return on ad spend, if you look at the history of retail media, has been a reasonable way of initially closing the loop and showing some value. I think it's a fine way of looking at relative efficiency between different retail media options. It doesn't tell you much about business impact.
Right.
And so everybody wants to see an IROAS metric. We're on a multi-year measurement journey to deliver incrementality or sales lift for all of our ad products and all of our channels. So that's been a big topic of conversation. As well, the future of TV, right? Everybody wants to know what we're going to do with Vizio. And I think a lot is happening in the TV industry this week. I've read a lot of interesting announcements. I read the Hulu Live TV Fubo partnership or tie-up. That might pave the way for the broadcasters to come together in their consortium and offer the sports package. I think that's super interesting. I read the thing about broadcasters coming together and building a tool for SMBs to buy TV more easily. And then there's big retailers having hardware, software, and a TV advertising business. And that's a disruptive aspect of TV that I think brands are excited about. They've been saying since the beginning of marketing that they want to better understand business impact. We can show closed loop measurement for TV advertising, and I think that's very compelling and exciting, and that's what they want to hear us talk about as it pertains to Vizio.
So if I think about the proliferation of monetized spaces, do you think we live in a world someday where like every single thing is screened and we're like just being like shot ads at every moment, or do you think there will be a saturation point at which point the natural supply demand balance will come back and we'll be like, okay, enough. Like, what makes me ask this question is I was in a taxi here in town and I'm on my phone in my bank app, and there's of course ads coming through to me there. There's ads coming through to me on the screens in the cab. There's ads obviously everywhere on every surface, in here. And it just occurred to me, like, at some point, are we just going to be like, enough? Like, I don't need a screen on my refrigerator.
I think saturation or some point of diminishing returns is knowable, right?
Yeah.
Through testing, we can figure out where do customers pull back when the ad load reaches a certain point that is unattractive to them. We certainly haven't gotten to that point. And I think that the companies that prioritize the customer experience first and foremost, which is a rich part of the Walmart legacy, are never going to reach that saturation point. They will test and learn up to a point where they feel comfortable that they're meeting their business objectives, and they're short of that line where customers get turned off by too much advertising. And we're nowhere near that line. Like, we have room to build the ad load, but I know that we will test and learn our way there and prioritize the customer experience the entire time. If other companies don't do that, sure, you might feel like you're in Times Square all the time. But that you're not going to have that experience with Walmart.
So if I'm an up-and-coming marketer, maybe on the brand side, but could be anywhere that's learning the business, right, which is totally different now than it was when someone was a young marketer learning as a brand manager. What would you want them to put on their learning agenda to best maximize the opportunity of a path to customer like Connect?
I don't know that I would spend a lot of time teaching them about media planning.
Yeah.
I think that that's about to get solved by tools. And so what would I talk to them about? I would talk to them about ROI. Like, how are the different ways of measuring business impact for brands when they invest in different types of media? What are the best ways of deciding how different ad channels and different ad formats work in concert to deliver a business outcome? And how do you isolate the impact of marketing relative to other factors that are going to help a brand grow the business? That's a much different conversation than a new employee in, say, the agency space or advertising 10 or 15 years ago might have been asked to sort of like wrap their heads around. But that's what I would advise them.
It requires much more business acumen,
It
right?
does.
Much more sector knowledge. And then clearly technology conversancy, data conversancy, those sorts of things.
But I think those are the conversations that employees of these companies want to have, right?
Right.
Like, they want to be upstream of the tactical conversations. They want to talk about business transformation. And so I think on the whole, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for people to do higher value things and not, get bogged down in spreadsheets for 5 or 10 years of their career. They're going to get to, there will be a faster path to the more interesting conversations.
Well, that sounds super interesting. It was certainly more fun earlier on, right? You don't have to wait to get to the fun part. Maybe same question, but for an up and coming creative mind, how would you advise young in their career creatives on how to think differently, if we think differently, about the creative with this amazing path to customer that's different than broadcast channels and one-to-one was even 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, listen, I've never been on the creative side of the business. I don't know that I have a creative bone in my body, but I will say
but
that
you know what works.
Yeah,
you've got the data to tell us what works.
You might not have to spend years toiling away, redesigning and resizing display ads before you get to the fun conversations, right? I mean, tools are going to do that for us. But no matter how sophisticated artificial intelligence gets in the realm of marketing, it's not going to replace human creative thinking and creative business problem solving. And so I guess that's the broader aperture for somebody in the creative space is how do you solve business problems and how do you apply the right message and the right format to a customer to solve that problem. You get to talk about that all the time and then let the tools figure out the size and the shape and the duration and the color and the sound.
We talk about it a lot, Ryan, because it's, as we try to find the way that we express how creativity works for our business, a business that was born out of accountancy and data and ROI. And we really feel that creativity is an untapped power for business outcomes, but it needs to be married with business acumen, focus on targets and whether you meet those targets or not, and thinking about what works based on the feedback you get from the data. So it makes me feel good that you think that's the case too, because we feel like it's a space that not very many agencies are owning on behalf of their clients.
Yeah, and we're seeing the effect of that today, right? Like we have lots of different targeting techniques and lots of different environments in which to deliver an ad, and we're delivering the same message to a wide range of segments in a wide range of contexts, which is suboptimal, right? And that's because I think it's expensive, or it has been expensive, to create a bespoke creative for a group of customers who are in a social environment or a video environment or a retail environment. That's the next phase, though. That's the next big unlock in retail media, I think, is better tailoring the creative message. And we're happy to marshal any resource we can from any company to solve that problem on behalf of brands.
So just maybe as we wrap up, Brian, I'd love to know, if we were sitting here this time next year, would there be like one or two cool things that we have? I mean, Vizio's pretty cool, so like I feel like that's I don't can it get cooler than that? I don't know, but we're sitting here this time next year. What will be the fun thing that Walmart Connect did that we'll all be talking about?
Well, I don't know if growing up is fun, but like that's what retail media is doing right now, right? It's growing up. We're maturing. I think that there's been a lot of promise, a lot of latent potential in in-store advertising. I think that's going to grow up this year. I think
that's exciting.
Coming out with consistent, clear ways of measuring sales and brand lift will happen. I think that an iROAS metric will become more of the standard than the outlier. I think that retail media will become the main course rather than the side dish or the amuse-bouche. And I think that TV as a component of retail media is going to be maybe the coolest, most exciting thing that really came into its own, this year, or at least the groundwork was laid for it to come into its own in future years.
Well, thank you. That does sound exciting.
Yeah.
For someone who grew up in retail, anything in the store is exciting for me because I don't think there's a better place in the world than inside of a retail store, and certainly inside of a Walmart. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you here this time next year.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.